Is I just want to say thank you to the fans again. That atmosphere was electric. Our players felt it. That's what college football is about. So thank you to everybody who showed up and was loud and supportive of the football team.
Well, Rubino, Devil's Digest. Kenny, looking back at wearing those two hats of head coach and play caller, how did you think you balanced those two duties? And assuming it's going to happen this week, what kind of changes do you feel you have to make in that area?
Yeah, I thought our staff around me did a really good job communicating offensively, defensively, and special teams. So credit to the offensive staff and their communication throughout the game. Coach Baldwin in the box, Coach Samples, Coach Iguano, Coach Munns, all those people just did a phenomenal job communicating what they were seeing.
Chris Cartman, Son of the Source. Kenny, you talked afterward about the advantage of calling plays from the field, and it seemed went going well. When you watched the game back, any additional thoughts that you had?
Yeah, I thought there was a few emotional calls. You know, I kind of mentioned after the game, and I felt it, where I rode the wave of the emotion, and I responded with an emotion, not a as sound of a response that I would like. So I would like to have a few calls back, and I'm always going to be my biggest critic. So whenever I watch a game, I'm looking for ways I can improve and be better. And I think there were a few plays that, could they have worked? Yes. But could I have maybe put our guys in a better position based off that scenario, that situation, the game? Could I have sequenced a three-play set better on a 2nd and 11 after we throw a now screen for a TFL? Yes, like all those scenarios, I always look at, well, how can I be better? So I think taking the emotion out of it at times, when we have those big moments that maybe don't go our way, staying more poised, and that's something I got to improve on. Execution was average. We're going to be better, and that's what I told our guys is we played a lot better, but there's a difference between playing better and playing good. And you can't be satisfied with just mediocre. And I felt like, yes, were we better? Were we drastically improved? Was there growth? Was there this? Yes. But better is nowhere to be confused with good. And we've got a long way to go to get to where I feel like the standard of an offense is. And we're going to go back to work this week to fine-tune some details, like I talked to the guys. Couldn't be happier with how the effort, and the want to and the commitment to the process. I couldn't be happier. Now we got to be able to sustain our detail throughout the game, and that's the real challenge. And we got to do a better job as a staff keeping guys fresh and rotating more guys early in the game so we don't get so tired at the end of the game.
Luke Lydon here at 12 Sports. Kenny, a bit of a personal question here. After a loss or a win, either or, when you go home, what is that dynamic like between you and your wife? Do you kind of disconnect and think about the game and have time to yourself? Do you talk about it? I'm just curious to give fans an inside look as to what the game is like afterwards for you after it's all said and done.
Oh, my wife's my hardest critic. I say I'm my hardest critic. My wife, I go home and I hear she's competitive as all get out. She's a Sun Devil. So she's always asking, what happened on this? What happened on this? Why did you go for it? What is this? Why this? So she is my toughest critic, and that's what makes us work is her passion for the game. And she's passionate about the game just like I'm passionate about the game. So I go home and it's right back to work, from that perspective. And then usually I try to watch the game either up here at night, 2, 3, 4 times, whatever that is. And then I go home and watch it again, usually lying in bed. So it usually goes to the questions of the why, and then from the wife, and then it goes to me watching the game pretty much until my body lets me sleep.
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. Coach, you've talked about not being satisfied with moral victories, but how important was it to have a game like that where you saw improvement so your players could stay and not get too discouraged, and also to keep the fan base kind of engaged that, yes, we're getting better?
Yeah, I think there's two sides of it. I think the victory side is one conversation, and the growth side is a completely different conversation. And, how I compartmentalize it is, the victory side is how you feel Saturday night. Like, you should never feel satisfied on a Saturday night if you don't win the football game. But you can still understand the growth that happened when you wake up in the morning and when you understand you got better and that you're closer to where you want to be. So I think there's a fine line between those two things, and you have to have a team that's not satisfied with losing football games, but that want to then make even more of a change to get better and better and better. And when they can feel a little bit of their growth, like you alluded to, I think it shows more of a buy-in that maybe this crazy guy yelling at us at practice, maybe it's real. Maybe if we just keep working, that the work does work. There's no easy way in life. You got to work. It's that simple. Nothing is built overnight. You got to work. And if you want to build something that's sustainable, you got to work daily to build it. It's not just a flip. You don't just flip the switch.
As a follow-up, this is going to be your first road game. How does that make this week different? Your guys are preparing to play a road game for the first time.
Yeah, just the travel and the organization. It'll be the first time that's a travel game with me. It's the first time it's an early day game with me. So our Friday night will actually be a little bit different as well. So there's a lot of differences there. Obviously, this coaching staff, I have the utmost respect for Coach Wilcox. I think he does a phenomenal job defensively. They're one of the most sound defenses in all the country, and they don't MA. You have to physically beat this team. So we're going on the road to play a defense that's elitely sound in what they do. They don't care if you know what they're doing because they're going to do it better than you, and they're going to make you earn everything you get. And then an offense with Coach Spavital, who's became one of the youngest head coaches in college football because he's an elite offensive mind. I believe the last time he was at Cal, he had the number 1 pick in the country at quarterback, and they're explosive. So this is a great challenge for our guys, and it's a great staff we're going versus. So it's going to be a great challenge.
Hey, Kenny.
Hey, Coach. Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AZ. Just wanted to see if there were any updates on any of the injuries and potentially them coming back this week.
Not right now, to be honest. We usually get our updates, later today, once people, go to the doctor and stuff like that, and get the returns back. So as of right now, no. I would expect Trenton to be back. Jaden's still out. And then Drew's obviously a little banged up still, and the game didn't help that. So, it's fun.
Hey, Kenny, Jake Seymour, Sun Devil Source. Now that you kind of had time to kind of look at the Cal game, what are some of the strengths that you kind of seen on their film? I know they like to run a little bit of double quarterback scheme. What have you kind of just taken away from that so far?
Yeah, they're explosive on offense. They're about the big play. This guy's going to be aggressive offensively. He's not going to just call inside zone 12 times and get 3.5 yards and say, you know what, we can do this all the way down the field and take 9 minutes off and go to the next play. And I think that's a testament to Coach Wilcox, who made a change in his philosophy this year offensively. He went from a conservative mindset of playing defense, good special teams, control the ball, to really wanting to attack. And it's a testament to why Coach Wilcox has been there so long and done such a good job, is he's willing to adapt. And then defensively, like I said, they are super sound. They're 4-down quarters that can become odd quarters, that can become odd 3-week, that can become odd quarters. And they have a really good, you watch them play a game, and what I always watch is, if you watch a full game, do the calls change on defense based off of what an offense is doing? And when you watch them coach a football game, you can see somebody may get them early, or they may get somebody early, and they are constantly throwing counter punches with their adjustments. If you think you're going to run the one series of plays, one drive, and come back and hit it again, and they're not going to make a change, you're delusional, because these guys know what they're doing, and they have a system in place that's been there, I believe, 6 years now since he's been there. And they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how they want to stop different formations, different sets, and they're very sound doing it. So I think the aggressiveness offensively, combine it with a defense that doesn't want to give up big plays, it's a really tough challenge.
Kenny, along those lines, what kind of response do you expect from a unit that just got 59 hung on them by Washington? Huskies are going to do that to a lot of teams this year, but
yeah, I don't think you can look at that game as a reflection of them. If you watch that game and watch that quarterback, Penix from UW, throw the ball, he throws a delayed hitch, almost underhanded, on a rope, like it was hit by Alex Rodriguez, to the field 2 yards outside the numbers for a gain of 8. So I don't think that game is any reflection of the defense. Go back 2 games, and I believe they gave up 14 points to Auburn. So this is a defense that limits explosive plays and is elitely sound. And if you hurt yourself, you're not going to move the football. And it's an offense that's explosive, and you saw that versus UW as well, scoring the points. So they're like us. They're trying to put it all together, trying to put both sides of the ball together because they've had really good defensive games, really good offensive games. And we're kind of in the same boat, trying to put it all together and go win a football game.
So, Ken, you talked about a great atmosphere and maybe getting caught up a little in the emotion, but one positive I think that came out in that regard, that as much emotion and vibe that was in the stadium, your penalty number was low. If anything else, USC looked more rattled in that department than you guys did. Is that maybe one of the positives you take away from Saturday night?
Yeah, that's been, other than the second half in week 1, we've been a fairly disciplined team. You know, we haven't committed many penalties. Most of them are aggressive penalties, knock on wood. You know, we haven't jumped off sides very many times. Now we haven't played on the road yet, so maybe that's we'll see what happens. We haven't jumped off sides on defense. We haven't had many stupid personal foul penalties. Like, we've been playing a brand of football that can win from that standpoint. We just got to elevate our details, and we can't take plays off when we get tired. We got to just get ourselves out of the game.
Kenny, you've always mentioned you want this team to try to replicate the intensity or the physicality for like the team from Utah. And what do you think you've seen from your team since camp until this point? Do you feel like the physicality has improved and everything you were hoping to see from them?
Yeah, I think you're never satisfied. Do I think there's been growth from spring ball from a physicality standpoint to now? Yes. Unfortunately, we've been banged up, so we haven't been able to build upon that. You know, I would have loved to use, throughout this season, I'm used to lining up good on good and doing a team run period and calling inside zone out. And I'm used to lining up and doing 2 minutes together and lining up and do some things together. And so I think our guys are buying into that. To say we're where I want to be yet is not accurate. We're building there. And I think the next step is perimeter. And then late in games, can we keep that focus on physicality? And are we conditioned enough to play that hard, that long? Because that's hard. People don't realize it's not the running that always fatigues you. It's pushing on people. It's playing hard. It's like wrestling somebody for 60 minutes. And you've got to be conditioned to do that, and that takes time.
Hey, Coach. Will Grice, Arizona Sports. Can you kind of just talk about the adversity the quarterback room has gone through, specifically Drew Pine? I mean, there's been 4 quarterbacks in, and he missed the start of the season, got nicked up against Fresno State, and then his first full game of the year was against, number 5 team in USC. So can you kind of just talk through the adversity of that entire room together?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fun one for that perspective. I mean, the one thing I can say about that room is, regardless of who's taking the field, everybody else has shown support. And that's really what you're looking for, is you're looking for when you're not the guy, when your number's not called, how are you going to respond? And how are you going to act to your teammates? Do you say that you're in it for the team, and then when it's not your number, does that mindset change? Or do you actually mean it? So I think that's the biggest thing that I've been pleased with so far with that room is whoever's taking the field has had the support of the other guys in the room, and those other guys in the room have helped them and backed them.
Hey, Coach, just going back to Jake Spavital, do you have a relationship with him at all? Or, I know you guys haven't necessarily crossed paths.
I've never met him.
Yeah.
The only relationship I have is watching his tape. I used to love his motion stuff that he would do when he was at West Virginia. I thought he did some good stuff with some quick motions.
Just being a guy that has gone down a similar path that you have, how closely did you study his path and what he's doing as an offensive mind?
Yeah, I mean, I study anybody I think that does a good job, and I think he does a good job. I think he was one of the first people, along with Lincoln Riley, we just played to take the air raid and really add more elements of the running game to it and really bring people in the box a little bit more. So he took those air raid principles and really added a little bit more run game, and he was he was part of that tree with Dana Holgerson and Lincoln Riley a little bit, who they weren't connected, but he was one of that tree that kind of did that earlier. It's very common now, but so it was definitely something I studied because I've never been a part of the air raid, so that was something I tried to just pick up on why they were doing things.
Yeah, Kenny, just going on the road with for the first time with the team and all of the logistics and challenges and focusing issues, are there any certain strategies that you have related to that, or things that you're really focusing on?
No. I mean, I don't know if there's a perfect way to do something right the first time. So regardless of how well I tell them we're going to be here at this time and they're at this time, or we're going to move to this meeting room and that meeting room, we're going to do this meeting Friday night instead, there's still going to be differences than how we operate right now. So I think the key is just none of that matters. None of that stuff matters. Show up to the meetings. Be on time. Don't worry about when we board the plane. Pack your shoes, right? Get ready to meet. Eat your breakfast, and let's go play football. And I think that's the biggest thing is all that stuff and the routine stuff is great. And it's easy if I could say, oh, it's our first road game. Great challenge to face all these changes, and they've never practiced how we practice on a road game. It's football. Go play football. Prepare like you're playing football. Everybody's playing a road game, except for the true freshmen. It's going to be very similar. Just go play football.
No Furtado, son of a source. Hey, Kenny. Regarding how the ground game worked out this past weekend, with all the injuries along the offensive line, how encouraging was it to see Cameron Scadabo have the game that he had and really get some traction in that aspect of the offense?
Yeah, I thought our offensive line did a really nice job with the movements. I mean, that defensive line is good, very good. They have multiple NFL players on that defensive line that were added to their team this year, this offseason, from really, really good programs. I mean, Anthony Lucas was in the rotation at Texas A&M as a true freshman, I mean, in the SEC. And then you have Bear Alexander, who is going to start for one of the national championship teams. So you have really good players you're going versus, and our guys handled it well. At times we were a little too passive, and we tried to die slowly instead of win, and that came back to bite us, but it's a good learning experience for the guys. But I was super impressed by our offensive line and how Cam ran. He ran his heart out and ran with a passion, ran with a great pad level. He ran with better tracks. He ran downhill instead of bouncing everything. Early in the season, he liked to jump cut a lot. And I think that's him adapting to this level, is he used to also be one of the best athletes on the field, one of the fastest guys, and he was used to just out-athleting, out-strengthening people. And I think this was the first game he really trusted his tracks, stayed tight on double teams, and you saw him be able to then run off double teams and keep a pad level. And it was really good to see his growth and to see our offensive line's growth.